of competition. 6 years of training, giving my 100% to this sport that I fell in love with and is a part of me more than I'll ever know. 6 years of traveling, Korea, Australia, China, Argentina, Peru, Israel, Austria, Bulgaria, Spain, Tahiti, Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica, Taiwan, Cuba. 6 years of plane rides, tournament fees, winning matches, losing matches, injuries, meeting friends, new coaches, traveling with my sisters, new USA gear, hard training sessions, missing home, wanting to quit, wanting to win, and 6 years of making new goals and achieving them. So, what was the point? Can you imagine the amount of money spent, of time spent, everything that was given up in order to do all this? Just to chase after a goal that in the end earns you medals and temporary congratulations and recognition? And this isn't even just some individual thing, because there's always a team involved. For me, it was my family. My sisters who flew around the world with me as much as they could to be my coach, who spent hours in and out of the studio with me, training, reviewing fights, strategizing. My parents who were there not just to help build my mindset and support me, but who would literally do anything from holding paddles or helping me meal prep so I could make weight for a competition. And in the US, unfortunately, there's almost little to no funding for competitive Taekwondo athletes. Every single time that I made the US Collegiate National Team, we'd receive some kind of email notification letting us know how much we'd have to pay in order to be on team. If you couldn't pay it, well, you could pass on your spot to the second place alternate. So why am I telling you all these challenging parts? Honestly, because it was worth it. I competed 6 years internationally in Taekwondo. Opening ceremony! But it wasn't for the medals or because I thought I'd have this great career if I could just make it to the Olympics. For me, it was worth it because of the person that I became. So how did I change? Well, first thing, when I was a child, I was really, really shy. You might not know this about me, but even my mom always remembers to tell me that I was the kid who was hiding behind her legs because I was so scared of meeting new people, so scared of the world. People always tell me that I seem really outgoing and extroverted, but to be honest, I am naturally really shy and really introverted. However, when you're competing, you're putting yourself in new environments all the time where you're forced to meet new people, forced to talk to new people and participate in things that you might not feel comfortable with, but that really brings you out of your shell. I also wasn't very confident growing up, and it's kind of funny to think about competition making you more confident, because let me tell you, you lose a lot, or at least I did. I lost so many matches, and what you really learn from all those losses is you learn how to rely on yourself and kind of get over it. You learn how to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses and accept those about you, and you learn how to manage it so that you feel like you can rely on yourself. You develop this sense of security because you know so much about yourself, you know what you're capable of, and every time you set a new goal and you do all the hard work that it takes to get there, it doesn't matter what kind of work it takes to get there, and it doesn't matter how much time, but just the fact that you're constantly working on this goal every single day, that's what creates this confidence about you. My confidence didn't come from winning competitions or winning medals. My confidence was created through the work that it took to achieving the goals that I set out for myself. Really, you just learn how to break down these big goals that you have into little steps so that you can actually reach them. Another big part was learning about new cultures, because I would often spend weeks or even a month in overseas in places like Australia or Spain or even Cuba, and you would really learn about new people. You see the world in such a different way, you experience talking to different people and just realizing the different values that they might have or the different lifestyles, but also at the same time kind of connecting it back and realizing that people are just people no matter what they are. And it was really cool and eye-opening to just realize that I'm only one person in this giant world that is filled with so many people, so many ideas, and it really gives you just a new perspective on life. Learning how to work with others, and this wasn't just with like your training partners or your team members, but often this would be with new coaches, because I couldn't always take my coach when I was part of team. I would be given a coach and I'd have to meet them in like a couple days before I actually competed in the tournament. Or if it was at a training camp and there were coaches from like France or Finland or anywhere else in the world, and you wouldn't really be able to communicate because they spoke a whole different language, you would learn how to work together and just take like whether it was physical cues or try and follow along, you really learn how to work with people that are completely different than you. Learning how to take failure. There's gonna be a bunch of times when things don't go your way. It doesn't matter for what reason, but you don't always win, and you really learn how to accept failure. What I learned was not to let failure define me. Just because I lost a match or lost a tournament didn't mean that I was a failure, but I learned how to just take a failure, take the loss, and get over it. Time management. Really learning how to manage your time, because when you're an athlete, and I was a college athlete, I had to manage going to school, working at our studio, having my own training sessions, preparing food, making sure I got adequate amounts of sleep. You really learn how to not waste time and make the most out of the time that you do have. Because when you're managing all of these different things, you do have to sacrifice a lot of free time. And not everybody wants to do that. But if you have really big goals that you want to accomplish, you have to make sure that you spend your time that you have wisely. Injuries. This is probably the most sucky one out of everything. I had a ton of injuries while I was competing. The most serious one that I had was when I tore 2 ligaments in my ankle, and that was a really big life lesson because it taught me that I have to learn how to take care of my body. As an athlete, you're usually pretty stubborn and you don't want to take any time off. But what I learned from the bad experience of ignoring it and just trying to not go to the doctor and not take care of it was that that kind of thing doesn't go away. Your body is something that you really have to take care of and pay attention to. And lastly, discipline, because there were so many times when I can tell you I just did not want to go to all the training sessions. I was tired, I was exhausted both mentally and physically, and you had to develop that discipline to get yourself where you needed to be even when you really didn't want to. Even with something as simple as weight cutting. There were so many times where I'd go to events like parties and they would have all this food or even like a potluck and everything would look great. But my tournament would be like that week in a few days, and I knew that if I ate something that I wasn't supposed to, number one, it wouldn't fuel my body correctly, and number two, I would probably not have the easiest time making weight. So you really learn a lot of discipline and in doing the things that you don't want to do in the short term because you know that they're what you want to do in the long term. I'm sure that there's a bunch of things that I'm forgetting, but the point of this was to share why I competed. I might not have made it to the Olympics and I might not have made it to becoming #1 in the world, but that's not the point. And this is what I always tell parents whenever their kid wants to compete. It's not about the medals, it's not about winning tournaments, but really it's about building the person that you want them to become. Because eventually the medals get hidden away in a box in a closet, and you have to retire from competition because you can't be an athlete forever. But the person that you become and the character that you develop is what lasts, and that's what can really ripple out so to have a positive effect on everyone that you meet for the rest of your life and everything that you do in it. So these are the things that I learned from my 6 years of competing. It was wonderful and it was the best time of my life, and I would desperately recommend it to anyone that wants to compete. There are some huge sacrifices, but I feel like the pros outweigh the cons a million times over. If you're a competitor, let me know in the comments below why you compete. It doesn't have to be at such a high level where you're competing and traveling internationally. Even if you do like a local tournament, you are still a competitor. So let me know in the comments below why you compete. If you haven't yet, make sure that you subscribe to this channel because I post on Tuesdays and Thursdays a new martial arts related video. And I will see you guys all next time for the next video. Bye guys!